Janelle?
Okay, whenever you want to go.
Okay, at 6:01 PM, I'd like to call to order the virtual regular monthly village board meeting for Tuesday, January 8th, 2022. Janelle, will you handle roll call, please?
Zashki,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
Kadunko is riding, but he said he's here. Bell?
I'm here.
Okay,
Here.
Bell,
Here.
Berto,
Here.
and Nino.
Here.
And has Pat arrived yet or no?
Don't see anything.
I haven't seen him, so,
Okay,
okay, for those of you who would like to join in, we'll stand and on the count of three, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. 1, 2, 3. I pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag
United
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
one nation, liberty for all.
Okay. Good evening, Pat.
Hi, sorry.
It's okay. I will motion that we approve the agenda as published.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 I,
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as published?
I'll make
I
that
will
motion.
make it. I'll second.
Motion by Duffy, second by Nino. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. Before we have Janelle summarize correspondence, do we have any comments or concerns from the public on a non-agenda item? Hearing none, I'll ask Janelle to please summarize correspondence for us.
okay. So the following correspondence was included in the digital packets. There's a letter that was received from Dan Koski, the chair of the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. In his letter, Mr. Koski welcomes the village of Sister Bay to the commission and states that he and his associates look forward to working with village officials for years to come. Copies of the 2022-2023 work program and the 2022 budget for the commission were enclosed with that letter. There was an informational flyer that was received from the United States Census Bureau regarding the 2020 Census County Question Resolution Operation. There was also an email and documentation that were received from Ken Povick, the administrator for Door County. In his email, Mr. Povick states that the broadband meeting that was recently conducted in Door County proved to be very fruitful. He also offers to attend a village board meeting to discuss the issues that are associated with bringing enhanced broadband services to the residents of Door County with the trustees. There was a letter that was received from Mary Lou Devilly. In her letter, Ms. Devilly indicates that she is interested in becoming a member of the Sister Bay Plan Commission. We also received an incident history report for the village for the period September 1st through December 31st. And there was also a report that's entitled Comparison of Door County Sheriff's Office Incident Totals for the period September 1st through December 31st. And that pertains to all the municipalities in Door County. There was an email that was received from someone who identified herself as Mary. And in that email, Mary states the charming Sister Bay we had enjoyed is gone. She also states congratulations on being the next haven for Chicago big money like Egg Harbor and Fish Creek. It is so unfortunate that the nice atmosphere is gone. There was a letter and a copy of the preliminary flood insurance rate map and flood insurance study report for Door County that was received from FEMA. There also was a letter that was received from Mike Carr of Death Store Marine that bears the signatures of several individuals who state that they agree with the statements he makes. In his letter, Mr. Carr enclosed photo of one of his trucks that was involved in a serious accident. And he states that for safety reasons, he believes that a dedicated truck routes a truck bypass routes, turning lanes, and wider paved shoulders for utilization by bikers and pedestrians are all items that are definitely needed in Northern Door. There was a letter that was received from John Fletcher, the Vice President of the Sister Bay Historical Society. And in that letter, Mr. Fletcher states that he's happy to report that the $25,000 benchmark that was set by the village with respect to the provision of matching funds for the Save the Little Sister Resort Barn project has been satisfied. Finally, a letter was received from Mary Kay Shumway. In her letter, Ms. Shumway states that it is with deep regret that she must inform the board that due to business obligations, she'll be resigning from the Plan Commission.
Denise?
I would like to make a comment now after Janelle's gone through the correspondence, because I would like to notate a couple of things pertaining that correspondence. I'm a little confused by the Ken Pavich letter. As far as I knew, it was DC EDC who was heading up and doing all of the legwork pertaining to the broadband. And so for this letter to come from him and talking about that he was going to be meeting with the board, I'm a little confused by. And secondly, just for informational purposes, I don't know if the board is aware that Steve Jenkins has resigned from DC EDC, and he'll be leaving the very beginning of June. And secondly, Mike Carr's letter, I would request that that be sent over to Parks, Property and Streets for their next meeting.
I think we've got that included in the packets.
Okay.
Would it be more appropriate to respond to some of that in committee reports? Because that was going to come up, the broadband study. Or
Okay.
do we want to talk about that?
That would
right
be
now?
excellent, Nate. Thank you.
I guess whichever is more appropriate would be my question. So it's something that I do have
Committee-
some
committee
information on.
report. Committee
Okay.
report's good.
Yeah.
I have one concern here. It's my belief that if somebody's not going to put their last name on something that gets submitted to the board, I don't think it should come here. That's almost anonymous in my opinion, which I don't think is very useful as far as that Mary that submitted it looks like it was a web submission. I also think we could get a bot that finds our web form and end up having to read a lot of that sort of nonsense in there.
I had the same thing noted on my agenda to talk about too, Nate. I agree wholeheartedly with you. If somebody can't supply at least their first and last name, I don't think we should be including it in the future. Any other commentary before we move to the business items? I would just like to make two quick notes before we do. One, thank you in advance to our interim administrator, Diane, for being present tonight in particular to detail along with Tasha items 5, 6, and 7 on the agenda. I would also like to offer congratulations to Mary Lyons on attaining signatures and turning papers in for the upcoming election. I see that you have joined us. Welcome. And with that, we will move to item number 1, a report on county activities from the county supervisor, Dave Lenow. Do we have Dave this evening?
He indicated that he had another obligation at the county and won't be able to attend this meeting.
Okay, so moving right along to item number 2, discussion regarding the draft of an ordinance that addresses short-term rentals of dwellings in the village of Sister Bay and review of a related short-term rental license application. Consider motion for action if appropriate. Denise?
So after last month's meeting, and I had quite a few questions on a lot of what had been written by me was not included in this draft. I did forward the document that I created that Bo and Jeff Sanders had commented on, and that is what is included in the packet. So it is complete in its entirety of what I had written. And open for comments, edits, deletions, just general debate on what's there.
I had a question about, wouldn't this typically come to plan commission before it comes to board on something like this?
No,
Okay, this would, it starts at the board typically.
starts and ends with the board.
Okay,
Chad?
Yeah, before I get worked up like some of my colleagues did over this plan that we had submitted, that was just a plan. Can I understand that we're not voting on this today? Or is
Correct.
it- Okay, good. So this is just another draft, so for us to give input and keep going on. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Good, okay, good. Then I won't get as worked up. Thank you.
can I ask one question, Chad, before you start?
Yes,
What is our goal with this?
I know where you're coming from, Nate, and we can have multiple goals achieved. I think hearing from different people in our community about their neighborhoods and having different neighbors on a weekly basis, and their home just doesn't feel, or their neighborhood just doesn't feel the same anymore. And all of the different issues that neighbors have had with people who are renting out their homes. Some of them, there are simply no problems with it all, any of it. There are many other issues with other rentals. I guess maybe depending upon who is managing it, if somebody is managing it, how involved the owners are in it. So I think it was to know who is renting out their property, to notify the neighbors. So if the neighbors have an issue, they know who to contact, and that they feel that they have a place to go for accountability if there are issues. Just kind of a clearinghouse kind of thing. I wrote it from, I looked at many different STRs and incorporated what I thought were some of the best things of others. Yes, it is a draft. That was my intention, to give the neighbors of these properties a place to deal with any issues.
So the goal would be to hold the renters accountable. Is
Yeah.
that a fair summation of it?
Yes,
Okay.
And I believe, Nate, you were inferring the rental owner, the owner of the rental property, right? Not the actual renters.
Well,
Or
you're right, both would be there, but I see Chad's got his hand up here and I cut him off, and you still
Okay.
kindly let me ask one question.
that was a long question, long answer for your question.
It was long, well, short question.
I think that's a good answer, Denise. I think that it can be done in one page though, if that's the real goal. I think there's a lot of things, whether it's noise, whether it's dogs, whether it's garbage, that we already have ordinances for. So not saying that we can't remind these rental units of it, but if we're gonna possibly pull a license from somebody because they leave their garbage out an extra day twice, then we got to be willing to do that for every resident in this village. And I've driven by many of your homes and seen your garbages out there longer. And mine has been too, when I leave for a day, when I leave for Tuesday, Wednesday, and I put it out Monday. My biggest concern, I've gotten calls from village staff telling me that the decibel levels were too loud at Husby's from people up on the bluff. And that's happened on nights that the Bull had music and Husby's didn't even have it. So I'm so concerned that we have to have a really, before I get into the details of this, of the enforcement of it, we have to have a really pretty solid, detailed way of doing this before we're spending every board meeting listening to a homeowner that's lost their privileges because one neighbor really doesn't like them and they complain every day. So I worry about that. That's one of my biggest concerns. I've sat on this board for over 3 years now, almost 3 years now. And I have yet to have in any of these meetings, and it may have happened when I wasn't in one, a letter or a person come complain about a rental. I know it happens. I'm not saying there isn't some problem out there. And I'm a management company, right? So this just steers them towards me anyway. But I don't think it's a pervasive problem throughout all of Sister Bay or even Door County. If we have a 24-hour call, most of the things we do in this already, because ultimately, our neighbors, our homeowners own a home. They care about their neighbors. They don't want to cause them problems. We don't want those people there. So before we have 2 strikes and you're out, I want to know who's going to administer those strikes, how we're going to verify those strikes. We need to have a clear distinction before I'll even go along with any of this. Your first line under section 5, short-term rental license. No person maintain, manage, or operate a short-term rental for 1 night each year without a village short-term rental license issued pursuant to this ordinance. The state allows you to go 10 days without having one. I doubt if we can do that. State statute already beats it by 9 days.
But the tourism zone does not.
Sure. But if the state doesn't require you to have a license for 10 days, I doubt if the village can do it. We have to follow their statute, so if you're going to have an application, you got to make it pretty easy. You got to make it online. You can't, because our staff doesn't have the time to deal with all this. It's got to be pretty easy online for them to do it. And we have to have that set up before we should implement this, in my opinion. I'm seeing Liberty Grove to go through this, and they're spending board meetings approving these things and all this time where Heidi or Tasha or anybody in that office I trust, or Janelle, to approve these as long as we have it laid out for them. But the idea that this can't be done on an online fashion, that seems foolish to me. There's a lot of things that the 45 days prior to license expiration, so we have time to do this. Do you make, how much does Bertles pay the village to have a gas station, for Christ's sakes? Think of the impact the gas station has on a community. All the people coming and going, people buying cigarettes, people buying booze. What do you pay the village? I don't think Husby's pays $500, and I think we're a lot more impactful as a business than a home or a condo. So that $500 probably came from me, but I said, if we're going to collect $1 on this, I want this money to go to offset rent for affordable housing, for workforce housing. I want to do something good with this money, something that you think there's a problem that vacation rentals are part of, which I don't disagree. But if we're going to collect money on it, we better be using that money to help the problem, because $500 is not going to stop any of these market conditions. It won't change one person from becoming a vacation rental. So we better use that money for some good. That's just the first page. I'll let other people talk.
Chad, you bring up some good points that we got into recently when you weren't with us. As far as people bringing up issues related to garbage, like you mentioned, we'll deal with a situation a little later regarding that as well. And you may not have been present the first time.
No, I missed the meeting, and
I don't recall. I'm just saying to kind of bring you up to speed.
Yep.
Your points are valid. I'm very glad that it's stuff we have addressed and we can fill you in a little bit down the road. One other point that came up, to your point, Chad, about the $500 isn't going to stop anyone from turning a residential structure into short-term rental. We addressed that recently, I volunteered my thought that maybe we want to look at, in making sure the money goes like you're talking about for good. Maybe we want to make the fee $2,500. We've had realtors comment that they don't think that the $2,500 fee would necessarily stop anyone either. But when you look at particularly the concern that's been expressed by some of our top realtors about, what's happening with the speculative driving up of prices on residential homes solely to turn them into short-term rentals, and the concern in the marketplace that, there might be a free fall because of that at some point. If somebody can afford to pay double an asking price on a home with routine, scenarios going on, and a lot of the time it's solely to turn it into a short-term rental, how can they not afford 2,500? And if you're talking about doing something good with the money, affordable housing, etc., community-wide good, $2,000 additional per license does a lot of good to go, to head in that direction.
Sure, but that's got to be decided before we even think about implementing this, right?
Right, but I think, I viewed this, Denise bringing this forth at this time tonight as an excellent chance for initial commentary on a draft. It's, for us to just start, getting further along with ideas.
Okay.
I guess, no, Denise has got her hand up.
One other thing that I forgot to mention in my long answer, Chad, was that one of the biggest complaints from neighbors is parking and how many people, how big their driveway is, and then people park on the street. I know that Bo, I think it was on the corner of Birchwood and Scandia, was constantly every weekend driving up there while he was here and ticketing people that were staying at that house because they were allowing too many vehicles without enough parking on their property, and they would block the intersection, and it was a danger. Now, do I know if he ever sent the homeowners a letter or just ticketed the people that were there for that particular weekend? I don't have that answer, and I did not reach out to him to find out that answer.
In that occurrence, if it had been the owners doing that same situation, they would have also been ticketed, correct?
Yes.
So we already have coverage for that. I have no problem. I mean, all these homes that I see that I manage, they have parking. We already have, it's already against the law or whatever you want to say it, how much of a law that is in the village to do that. So whether you're a resident or not, I just don't want to see, we all have extra people at our homes and extra cars parked there sometimes in the summer that people want to come visit us. If we're going to have these rules, we need to be consistent with them with everybody that lives in the village, and if they're parking it where they shouldn't be, yes, they should be ticketed, whether they're a vacation rental or not. To me, that's mutually exclusive.
You're talking to the ticket queen.
Yeah, I don't see how, like that needs to be in a short term, but I do want a real question answered. How much do I pay the village to have a bar?
I don't know what are your property taxes, I guess. I mean, one of the things
they pay property taxes too. How much do you pay to have a gas station? What is your license for the village to let you have a gas station?
0. I pay for a liquor license.
Yeah, but a liquor like that's part of the inconsistency. This money better be going to offset some good things for housing.
But the other thing about the money is that because of Act 67, it allowed commercial business in a residential district that we have no control over Act 67. That's a done deal. And now communities one by one are trying to have some accountability for the people that choose to do this. So their standards are very different than if somebody were to build a hotel or a B&B and everything else. And it just makes maybe the playing field a little bit more even with the rules and regulations, and a small fee or a larger fee if deemed appropriate that they have to deal with.
Again, I've went through all these other community ones. I like Sister Bay because we're usually ahead of the curve. Let's have a fee, but let's make it really easy for people to fill it out and really easy for them to pay the village, and really easy for us to transfer that money to people that are gonna live here and work here, and have an application process. Like, that's doing great things, right? Otherwise, this is just another layer. Like, you have the state inspect you, I have the state inspect me, the state inspects these people already, right? So there's that like, I mean, other places have their own inspectors too. Bigger communities are doing that. Good for them. But I also want us to see us doing it just to do it. I want it to be constructive and to help what is a part of a problem. But you know, this problem's big. It's second homes are like stocks. They're like IRAs now. And that's not your fault or my fault or the village's fault. That's years of policy in real estate tax law that has driven that. And I don't know that we can beat that.
I don't think anyone's looking to beat it. I would be interested, Chad, in your thoughts on, you know, on your take on this draft, on this initial draft as it stands, what is not constructive about it? Because you said you want this to be constructive. Does that mean you find this draft we're looking at to be not constructive?
No, well, partially, but Pat's been raising his hand, and then Rob, remind me your question. We've been skipping over Pat for like 10 minutes.
And that's okay. I was just going to say that, you know, you've got some valid points. I do think, though, when I think about one of your questions or points was, why have this? We already have it in the village. I've been on this board 10 plus years. I couldn't tell you all here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. And I'm on the board. Okay. So if we get somebody who is a new renter, I think it is an appropriate way in a concise, clear means to present to them, here's the rules of the road, guys. To say to them, go look at our code that's hundreds of pages long and look here for parking and here for that. They're not going to do that. They're going to get confused.
And that's
so
fair.
The idea of having one, and I'm not saying it should be this one, but I think as a general rule, it's a great idea so that the village covers themselves and just says, look, they have this, you know, and nobody can say we weren't told or anything else. And to me, that's a valid reason to have one. We can debate or go into more discussion about the details of it, but I think it's a good sound idea. And I think it's an excellent idea you raise, is that it should be easy. It should definitely be online. It should be easy for the office to facilitate. So that's a great point. That's it.
And I agree with you, Pat, and it's a document that's going to have to, and it's not just for the short-term rental guests, the renters, but considering in the marketplace, how many, you know, people have invested in these homes solely to run them as short-term rentals. They don't come into that ownership with the historical knowledge base of how things run in the village. And so for that document eventually to enlighten all of them, here's everything for you to consider as a property owner and as the renter, I think is very constructive.
As a side note, I appreciate that we care about affordable housing, because I guarantee you I care as much as anybody. I know there's this conception out there that all these are investments, and a lot of them have turned into that. But we just dropped over 20% of our clients. And I told most of them, I think your house should be long-term for workforce housing. But you know what that does? It squeezes people like me out of here, or most of us, because these people can only afford to have this house in Door County if they rent it out. Right now, we're only just creating it more exclusive, because the people you're squeezing out are the ones that stretch to have a piece of Door County. They're renting it out to cover a lot of their mortgage so they can afford to retire here. I have probably one client, maybe two you could consider, that are investment clients, right? That's it. They don't live in their house. They invest in, it's just a rental to them. And none of those homes are affordable. Most of the people that rent out their homes use them quite a bit. And 20 years ago, I remember everybody in this county bitching about all these empty homes up here. And now everybody's bitching about them being filled. Like, I don't care if we're going to have this in a rules to go along, but we better do something with that money that helps the problem that we all have up here is affordable housing. If we don't do that, I'm never going to be for it, because none of this is going to solve affordable housing. None of this will.
I don't disagree with anything that you said. I don't think I'm trying to curtail with this document, anybody from renting their home. I don't think this will solve the workforce housing issue, but can it address some of the issues that our residents are having that live next door? Yes, and if we have a large enough fee that can really do something great and figure out some kind of grant application or whatever, I think that's a fabulous idea. Really fabulous.
And I think we can do it in one page. Because even some of this, like, what do we care if they get a business tax registration, right? None of my clients need that because we're registered as a business. We collect all their sales tax. Now, room tax, we got to do individually. Sales tax, we collect all and we remit it all on their behalf. And that's part of the reason, that's efficiency, right? Instead of the state of Wisconsin having to receive tax from 85 rentals we manage, they get to receive tax from the business that manages it. And this would make us have 85 more little hurdles for the state of Wisconsin in reporting. And, you know, it makes no sense for an agent to have that operates correctly, right? I'm sure there's agents out there that aren't doing it the right way.
Well, that certainly could, I will make note of that. That's certainly a really good point. But if they don't have a management company doing it, then they should have a BTR. Every other business has to have a BTR. If they work through a management company that has a BTR and is addressing all of that, that's great. So that they're, you know, so then that would not apply. So I will make note of that and make some kind of adjustment to the document.
Great. The state doesn't tell you on that application or that inspection report how many you can sleep. They will tell you if a bed or a bedroom doesn't qualify as a sleeping room. But if you want to put 12 beds in a room and it's got an 8-foot ceiling and there's plenty of square foot for those 8 beds, so pull that part out of there because the state doesn't do that. So none of these people can give you something from the state that says it sleeps 12 because the state doesn't do that.
Okay. So
Well,
that
really
would be
wish-
more for the utility department to know how many REUs are there. Then I could change the wording to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, for septic, the few that we have in the village, I get it, right? Even though nobody has shown it to be a problem yet, Liberty Grove hasn't shown it to be a problem there, but maybe it is.
I thought many years ago now, we capped way before this whole STR thing was around. It was, you know, you can have only so many non-familial people in a single dwelling or residence. So to me, if there's a reason for that, and that's already in our code, why wouldn't you just follow that? To Chad's point, it shouldn't matter if this is short-term rental or not. It's the same as the same. If it's a single family.
Legally, I would love to see us challenge how many people that, you know, Pat had over Memorial Day weekend sleeping at his house, right? Denise gets invited over for a cocktail, notices that there's 12 people sleeping in a house that should only sleep 10. Come on, guys. Like, I get it. Neighbors don't
He's
want
got
to.
the garage though, he's fine. That's why Pat's even here is because of that freaking garage.
Yeah, he's got 20 people sleeping in there at halftime. I just don't think I don't think that would hold an ounce in court for us telling any of us residents how many people we can have sleep in our house. Like,
I think it might be tied. I don't know. Dan Klansky's on. I'd have to go back and read the code. Maybe REUs is just, you know, for your fixtures, but doesn't that have anything to do with how many people are going to be using those fixtures? Can you
No, it's
clarify?
just strictly a fixture count. There's people with 6 bathrooms. No, it's
Okay.
just their initial assessment for fixture count.
Denise,
Okay.
if I want to come to Berto's right now and I'm in a wheelchair, do you have an ADA bathroom?
Yes.
You do. Good. Husby's doesn't. And most places built before a certain time don't. So the idea that these homes would have to be under ADA compliance, then I'm going to ask that we make every hotel room under ADA compliance. Right now, a hotel will have 1 room designated for that. That is just not realistic.
Okay.
It's
I
not-
mean, I'm here to take comments. I incorporated
I
as
wish
as
we
much
just
as
sat down with me for a beer or two before this meeting and we could have saved a lot of this.
Oh.
You know, I kind of do this. I may not know much, but if I was going to regulate a gas station, I'd ask you. But now I'm not. I'm going to get 4 of you to vote for it. I'm going to have 6 electric plug-in chargers required at every gas station. And if you don't have enough parking spaces, your gas station's over. I bet you I can talk 4 of these guys into voting for that. Nate would. Just kidding. All I'm saying is a lot of this could be cut out. I think I'm not against the short-term regulation. I'm making the point that let's just keep it easy for staff. I like the idea that, as Pat said, reminder to people, here's the information you have. I don't make them watch a video, right? About here are the things that you got to do. You know, like I get it, reminder, but if we're trying to make people operate in a different way at these rentals than we require citizens to operate, I just don't understand how that could even stick.
Well, how about if for the next pass at a draft, in advance of that, as soon as possible after this meeting, an editable copy of the document gets forwarded to everybody, and then each trustee could submit to Heidi or Janelle what their edits or commentary would be. And then Denise would have access to all of that and could come back with an updated draft taking in everyone's comments. Then that gives you the opportunity, Chad, to be more specific, as you were mentioning. Denise?
Now, I know that we've had issues with converting documents to the shared drive and then converting them back. Janelle, Heidi, can we do this?
Hold on. I don't think that is legal to have a shared doc that has all the trustees editing it. I believe that constitutes a public meeting. So I think you'd actually have to send out, as Rob was describing, you'd have to send out the document to people that edit and they'd send it back. Because if you have that where they can all do that, it's effectively, it's a public meeting and it'd have to be noticed, and I guess it'd have to be open for, a week. I don't think it's viable. I think it's technically possible, but not legally possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it gets sent to each trustee individually, and then they can or cannot submit any edits or commentary.
But I think Heidi's got something to say here, because I see she.
Well, we would
unmuted herself.
just compile all of your comments into one document and assign everybody a different color. So you could see one edited version that has everyone's color coded comments. Does that work?
It'll basically be like what you guys did when you were working with SharePoint for the plan commission or for the zoning code revisions.
I'm not sure that was something that was.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessary for the trustees to have access to anyone else who might have submitted commentary while they're in the midst of making their commentary. It's
I think
just,
what Heidi's saying is she can do it, what you're talking about, Rob, and what I'd be content with.
Yeah.
So I think
okay.
that's what I hear you saying, Heidi.
Yeah, if everyone just sends their comments to one person in the office, then that person will compile them all and then share that at the next meeting.
So I've had my hand up here for quite a while. There's this lovely feature in Zoom that Jeff Sanders showed us so long ago.
Runs right in.
My hand's been up for about 10 minutes. A couple things that I've heard here. I think that we really should identify what the goal of this short-term rental ordinance is, because I do see us having it move a little bit. If it's just to hold the renters accountable, that is a good goal. Is it to minimize the impact of the rentals on R1? That's certainly a legitimate goal, but let's acknowledge the goals that we're setting, because if we don't know what we're trying to do, we're not very likely to get to accomplish our goals. Something else I heard was about parking, and I disagree with you, Chad, on we should hold these short-term rentals to the same accountability, the same standard as we would any other residential use. I think that there is a substantial difference between a short-term rental and somebody that lives or is a long-term rental in a residential neighborhood. Those people are stakeholders, they're invested in the community. They have an interest in the community. And I would say that if you have people that are aware of the neighborhood and they're parking, they're not going to park like a bunch of I'm trying to think of some good words, but jackasses, like people do. That's the best way I can describe that. So I do think that it's a little different there, and I think that we could, one mechanism I would think, because I know that we're going to have state statute provide us many challenges to work around, which is why it's so important we know what our goal is so we can work around those state statutory challenges, would be to treat it as you'd have 4 or 5 cars that can be associated to a property, or 6 cars or 8 cars. And those cars would have some sort of permit. But the other issue we have not talked about at all this time that we did talk about last time is enforcement. Collecting $500 for a permit is great, but how much does it cost us to collect that $500? And what's going to be left over towards any sort of workforce housing? And also, this is not going to be the solution to workforce housing. There is no single solution to workforce housing. We have to come at it from about 500 different ways with 500 different solutions, and then we might make a dent in it. So there is no magic bullet on it. This is certainly not it. Now I'm done.
Any other commentary at this point? Denise?
Well, I was just going to say, instead of office staff having to deal with comments from the entire board, I would suggest, if there's consensus, that everybody's marked up versions would come to me, and I would change the document or insert all of those comments then for further discussion, or possibly make changes to the document. Even Chad has said some really good things that need to be changed because of his knowledge.
Even Chad, you should have talked to me.
Chad, what did I say?
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Even an idiot can get something right, she said, basically. That was really, really nice. I appreciate that.
My only concern with that, Denise, is to Nate's point, you could have, if a trustee is being the gatekeeper instead of the clerk, then it could be conceivable that several trustees, up to including a quorum, would eventually be touching base as far as, did you get my comments? Do you have them, et cetera? I don't necessarily say that would happen, but we need to remove the specter of somebody perceiving it as a possibility. Chad?
I disagree with all that. I really think, going back to what Nate said, let's come up with the things that matter. There's some basic rules, whether it's parking, noise, dogs, neighbors, directory, being able to have contacts, people within 30 miles. There's 10 things that make sense, right? But those 10 things can be pretty precise and dialed in. We don't have to get into all the minutia of all this other crap that's, the state inspects it. They're there for the smoke detectors, and I know none of that's in there, but let's figure out what our real goal is. Keep it as concise as possible. Even when it comes to liability insurance, we tell all our clients to get liability insurance. Do I check it every year? Hell no. Do we ask any other business in Door County to provide proof that they have insurance? Like, that's just one more thing that's not our job. If they're dumb enough not to have insurance on a house they're going to rent, that is not our job to manage. Let's figure out, and I agree with noise. I agree that there should be a number. If somebody calls the village, they can look at this address, this rental there's a registry, this is who I contact. Common sense, that's great. But let's dial it into that. And then let's decide how much we're going to charge and how we're going to use that money, because that's really going to be the work of this. Let's keep the application easy. Let's make the fee good, and let's work on what we're going to do with that money to help offset it and how we can facilitate that, because that's a whole nother thing. But I think it would be hell. It would be awesome if we let in that department where all these municipalities are just doing it to do it. I don't want to do it to do it. Let's do something great with it.
Well, you would have an opportunity to summarize all that in your version of a single page document that you would submit to Heidi.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Nobody else submit one to Heidi. I'll take care of it, guys.
So
Thank you.
Just kidding, Vivian. I don't want this to get longer, right? It's already like 5 pages. And if we all had comments, pretty soon Denise is going to come back with 10. Let's figure out our goal first. Let's figure it out right now.
Everyone might have a different goal. And what each trustee thinks the goal should be, can be listed or noted on their commentary.
Why don't we start with that? Why don't we just, let's not make this too much to put together here. Let's just list our goals, and then let's brainstorm our goals, send them back, let Denise compile them via Heidi, and let's figure out what that is, because the reality is, with Act 66 out there, we need somebody that's smarter than me, and I'm going to say that probably smarter than everybody here. I know that you all are smarter than me in a lot of things, but that can get this, our goal, accomplished in a way that is in compliance with state statute. We need an expert to come up with that.
I agree.
Denise?
I can't remember if it was Jeff Sanders or if it was the zoning attorney. Bo did have them review this. They did make a couple of comments on it, and basically they said it was a really good document. Now, I know that you're taking my word for it, but I think on the share drive, their comments are still on there if anybody wanted to look at those. But that was the consensus from Jeff or the other guy. I cannot remember who that was right now.
Did we tell them what our goal was with it? Did we tell them what we
Did
wanted
not.
to accomplish? I think that's vitally important, because it might be a good document in terms of it doing what the framework is set out to do, but do we know how that's actually going to be implemented? Unintended consequences.
Sure.
Sandwich boards.
I would say the goals, in my opinion, revolve around, Nate, that I think you're absolutely correct in saying there's no magic bullet for the short-term rental situation.
I was saying attainable housing, Rob. But this is just to be clear.
And for the attainable housing, that there's no magic bullet. I would disagree with you in theory that there's 500 ways the topic has to be come at. I think we need to start coming at the topic in ways that make sense as they come up, and this being one of them. And I would say, from my standpoint, a goal should be that anyone who is whether be it as a new owner or a transitory new visitor to Sister Bay in a short-term rental home, has a document that explains to them in totality, this is the deal with you, you running this place, owner, and this is the deal with you coming here and visiting renter, and that the fee should be substantial enough so that there is substantial money being completely earmarked for what can be done by the village to further affordable housing as an opportunity would arise.
I guess what I just heard you say is the goal is to educate the owners and the renters. And I don't think that's what the goal is.
Well, I think
I would not expect everyone to think the goal is the same. I would expect virtually every trustee to have a different shade or a different idea on what the goal should be. And that's where I was coming from and saying, to speed things along this evening, might it be pertinent to just say, leave it up to each trustee in their submittal of commentary to include in that, this is what I believe the goal should be. Because if somebody's going to provide substantive commentary that differs from what Denise has produced, which hired professionals have said is a sound document, and a trustee favors what in their mind is a just as sound a document, but coming at it in a different way, then I would think that commentary or alternate document they provide would fit into them saying, and here's why I'm saying this, because the goal should be that.
I guess I think that we probably should move on from this, and I absolutely agree with you on that, Rob. And I see your hand there, Chad, but
Real quick, it is a sound document, but without us having a way to enforce, without us having a plan for how staff is going to manage, and without us having a goal for what to do with the money, this is just copying and pasting from other regulations. It's just a regulation that doesn't accomplish much. I do think informing the renters and the owners is a good thing, right? But we got to do something more than that. And we got to figure out, hey, old neighbor complains about guy playing guitar at 9:45 and calls the village. Is that strike one? Is that all it takes? Like, until this has got to be figured out before anybody with sound mind can vote for that, because that's really risky, right? Two occurrences. I mean, I'm not like, I don't even know how that's done. So it's a good document. There's a lot of detail in here, and it's thought out. But until we know how to execute anything and what we're executing it for, what does a document matter? Those are my 2 cents.
I also want to throw out there that I think that we're probably doing a good job of trying to scare Mary away today. And applaud her for sitting through this whole thing.
Yeah, and in that regard, can we move forward saying in as timely a manner, hopefully by the, before the end of the month, each trustee will send, upon receipt of the editable form from Heidi, will send any and all commentary back in for us to begin putting it together for more substantive follow-up. Do we have
Sounds good.
consensus on that?
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent. Thank you, everyone, for your paying the such heed and attention to this. Item number 3, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Parks, Properties, and Streets Committee that the village board pass and adopt ordinance number 292-011-82022, which states that the posted speed limit for the entire length of Fieldcrest Road shall be reduced to 25 miles per hour. And if that recommendation is accepted by the board, that the Director of Public Works be authorized to determine the appropriate locations for applicable speed limit signage and see that such signage is erected in as timely a fashion as possible. Consider motion for action if appropriate. And let me just note that the ordinance, if you read it in your packet, actually states Fieldcrest Road from the intersection with 57 northerly to the intersection with 42. We don't refer to entire length in the ordinance as it's drafted in there.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed?
Rob, so what do you want to have the motion say then? About the
want the-
footage?
I want the motion to state what the wording in the ordinance states, which is from the intersection of Fieldcrest and 57 in the northerly direct, the way you wrote it when you and I were in there looking at the draft of the ordinance, Janelle.
Okay, so that's how you want the motion to. read.
Yeah,
Okay.
we went from how we put it into spelling out in the ordinance. Here's the section of Fieldcrest, and we jumped from that in the listed agenda item to using the term entire length, which
Okay,
is not appropriate.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
so we have a motion and a second to Fieldcrest from the intersection with 57 moving northerly to the intersection with 42 becoming 25 miles per hour throughout, with the additional notes as appeared. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. And Dan Klansky, thank you in advance for your end of that.
One
Item
thing,
number
Rob,
4.
I'll switch out the current signs, but we got to wait for the ground to thaw till I put in the additional signs.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. Discussion
Come on,
regarding,
Dan, you're good. You're talented. Go out
We
there with
can
a hair
blast
dryer.
them.
item number 4, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Parks, Properties, and Streets Committee that Dan Klansky, the Director of Public Works, be authorized to initiate the procedure whereby the speed limit on State Highway 57 from the entrance to the village to the location where there already is a reduced speed limit be reduced to 45 miles per hour. Consider motion for action if appropriate. Do we have a motion?
I would
make
make
a
that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ninow, second by Kadanko. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5, discussion regarding the village trustee compensation schedule and related ordinances, bylaws, and statutes. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha and Diane are going to lead us through this one.
I'll start. This is Diane. So I kind of came across this by accident when I was reviewing some of the documents that I was provided for the Village of Sister Bay when I started as interim administrator. And the hourly compensation caught my eye when I was looking through the bylaws, just because it's not something I had seen before and I didn't think it was allowable under state statute. So I checked into it, and it is not. And I did also follow up with Attorney Nesbitt, just to make sure that my understanding of the statute was correct. And he agreed as well. And so that's something that, even though it's in the bylaws, it's not allowable by state statute. And also the village ordinances need to be updated because the bylaws identify per diem or per meeting compensation that differs from the ordinances, and ordinances supersede bylaws. So it's something that we need to clean up so that they're not in conflict with each other. And unfortunately, hourly pay for elected officials by state statute are not allowed for municipalities. And when I was looking at the history of it, it looks like it was fashioned after, understandably so, after Door County. At the time that this was passed, Door County had a similar structure. However, the state statutes for counties are different than municipalities, and municipalities are not allowed to be paid on an hourly basis.
So do you have a recommendation of how to appropriately compensate those that are working beyond meetings?
There really is no way.
I guess something I think that we should probably look at here is identifying we're compensating the village president differently than other trustees. I do think that we should consider the plan commission chairperson as another compensation level, because it does have a greater burden than other titles and other chairmanships. So
That is, a salary is allowable, so the village can set the salary.
So what if we were to do, obviously we would have to wait until the next election before that change would go through, correct?
Correct.
What does everybody else think about, I think that maybe halfway between the village president and the other trustees for the plan commission chair, because that's the person that is getting the heaviest hit outside of meetings.
I think that's an excellent idea, Nate. I support it. I would say that I would like everyone to consider an additional clarification with that, if it would be possible, and if Diane can weigh in on that, so that there was a description of whether it's in the bylaw or whatnot, that explains, or part of the justification for that salary for the plan commission chair is that, for instance, in the absence of an administrator, or at the need of the village board majority, that the plan commission chair devote additional time to zoning and ordinances, like essentially as a way to say, yes, Denise as plan chair now come April would, and continuing in that role, would qualify for that higher salary, but that there would be a record of, for the village, that come a day, if there was a different plan chair or whatever, that part of accepting that position at that higher salary level is the understanding that, okay, if we get into a situation where we need somebody doing X, Y, and Z, it would be you. Does that make sense to anyone? Denise?
Yeah, a question for Diane, because since Bo has been gone, I have been doing all the zoning permits, the reviewing of plans. et cetera, is setting a different monthly salary or annual salary for the plan commission chair the only option?
It is, it gets kind of sticky on that situation because ultimately you're acting as a village employee, and a village elected official can't also be a village employee. And so that's where it gets sticky in there. And I did, I had not seen that before where an elected official acts as a zoning administrator. And I completely understand why that's happening in this situation. But it gets a little hairy because the one section of the ordinance, excuse me, the state statutes says that the only way trustee can be or an elected official can be an employee is if they resign as trustee. And the way of compensating someone for doing the work of an employee ends up making them an employee. So it's just a very unusual situation. I've not seen that before where an elected official is acting in that capacity. I asked Randy about it as well, and his concern, and both of us also had the concern on just making sure that there wasn't any conflict of interest that could cause any kind of risk, and he felt comfortable with that, but neither of us can figure out a way that would be allowable, because in all appearances it's like you're an employee.
Okay, okay. So that's the answer to my question. Then to follow up on what Nate is talking about, for the last quarter of 2021, October was extremely busy, and half of November was very busy on what I did in the absence of Bo, and I put in over 25 additional hours. So my concern would be, is it appropriate to give plan commission chair, I could see a reasonable bump just because the workload is a little bit heavier, but the only reason that there's a lot of work right now is because we don't have an administrator. And so I would hate to see the compensation bumped up to a point of overpayment for that position.
Let's just do it for a year and come back to it. Let's bump it up for a year. And I know we always forget these things we do, and I get that, but let's try to remember, let's look at it a year from now.
Well, the only thing is the salary it's got to be timed with elections.
Well,
so
there's election every year.
Yeah, well, that's the only, okay, is you just got to be cautious on that. I'm kind of thinking out loud here.
Yeah,
and I would recommend that the salary be set in the bylaws by resolution rather than within the ordinance where a part of it is now, because it's just easier to change rather than an ordinance each time. But that's entirely a possibility as well.
I think they set it at $3,600 for the year. That figures 96 hours at $25 an hour. I think if we do that, and we can revisit it if we need to. We can. I don't know that we need to put a sunset clause because Pat won't be here, so we don't need to throw him that bone right now. But I think that we should revisit it in the future.
Whatever the amount is, I think we factor in that it's more now, but then maybe we should have we should come up with what it goes back to, and just.
The challenge is though, is because it has tied to the election cycle, there's going to be this big lag to it.
I understand, but it'll allow us to have a point of reference of what we were thinking.
So then we would have to plan that Bo was going to leave unexpectedly last March, as I'm saying is the challenge on there.
No, I get what you're saying, is I'm just thinking of it as a point of reference, what it's worth. We know the job's worth more whether we have an administrator or not, right? So let's figure out what that amount is. And let's just figure out a different amount for this next year. And
So
you know,
Diane, what we're saying is because of an unexpected occurrence, the Plan Commission chair had to do some targeted, specific extra work that does not appear to them or any of us to be elongated on an annual basis, but we're willing to, compensate the position in that regard because of this stipulation that they can't be paid hourly. But did you in your consultation with Randy on this, Diane, and where he said, the whole conflict of interest thing, he didn't see as an issue, did he flat out say, because you've got, you needed a plan commission chair to spend 25 hours taking care of some things because the administrator left, that we're subject to being sued for that?
I've got a simple question here. Can we have?
Nate, can you wait and let Diane have a chance to answer my question before you cut my question off, please?
Sure, Rob.
I mean, I don't think that the village is in a position where there's going to be concern for, a suit. This wasn't anything that was intentional or knowing. It was an honest mistake kind of thing. But it just, and I wouldn't say that Randy was completely comfortable with the, elected official acting as interim and zoning administrator. It's just that he had absolute confidence. And I'm sorry, Denise, I don't remember your last name here. Anyways, and okay, thank you. Denise Burdo, or Ms. Burdo, he didn't have, he felt strongly that Trustee Burdo had the ability to separate the conflict of interest. And so in his communication to me, his concern was relieved because of Denise's, Trustee Burdo's ability to separate that. He said in normal circumstances, he would have concern about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, then the question I would have is, can we have one rate if we have an administrator and one rate if we do not? And that comes into it, and have that in the ordinance.
Or bylaws.
I could check that.
that would be great.
Okay. But I think that's what we should try and do. Is that consensus?
Yeah, and like, let's pick a number like 180 days in a calendar year without an administrator or something. Or no, make it less. Because
Well,
really,
let's wait to see what Diane says, and then we can set a timeline based on what her answer might be.
And let's ask her to come up with some numbers from her perspective that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you catch that
Days.
Randy's good with Denise getting paid, but she thought the rest of us would probably be susceptible to bribes? So like, did you guys read through that? Pat read
I
through
mean,
it.
like, Chad, the thing is, the more you pay, the less susceptible you are to bribes.
I've been waiting for one yet. It still hasn't happened.
I've been waiting for that pie like Shawshank Redemption where you have the 100 stacked next to it. Haven't got it at all. Not once.
So
You
to
don't
be
get
clear,
the-
he wasn't specifying Sister Bay trustees were not. He was
That's
saying
okay.
trustees
Yeah,
in general.
That's okay. I'll talk to Randy when I see him.
Okay, so we'll get more, Diane, we'll take, I'll follow up with Tasha to see if we're at a point next month to continue with this on the agenda for an update.
All right, sounds good.
I think
Okay.
that we should make it a pretty hard deadline on March because obviously we have the April election. So if we don't do it then, it's not gonna it won't matter this year.
Good point.
Right? So expecting to hear back from Diane to hear that, yes, it's going to be able to go on the February agenda with the further facts she finds out. And then we can decide by March what we
Which is-
officially want to approve, right?
Yeah, if we figure out what the timeline is, sometimes,
Okay.
public notice and all that sort of stuff.
Right,
Yep, I'll work on that. Thank you
okay,
for the
so,
direction.
so we'll continue onward with this at the February board meeting in a agenda item format. Item number 6, discussion regarding the Village of Sister Bay 20-year comprehensive plan and comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, CORP. And the plan updates, consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha and Diane, you were going to weigh in on this one as well.
Both of these plans are due for an update. The comprehensive plan, state statute identifies that an update has to happen every 10 years. And that one is, if a community has a plan, it has to be updated by every 10 years. Then the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, that one isn't statutorily dictated, but it's if you have a 5-year updated plan, then you're eligible for grant funding through the DNR related to parks and recreation. Both of the Village of Sister Bay's plans are overdue for an update. However, and I know that the village has put some money aside for 2022 for updates of both of these plans. However, with the village just recently joining the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission, these are things that that agency does for communities, not just as part of their regular membership, though. They would need to apply for grants in order to get the funding to work on these for you. Otherwise, you'd have to pay them like a consultant. So even though both plans are outdated, I think it would be reasonable for the village to postpone the update in order to take advantage of the grant funding that may be available. And I spoke to Bay Lake RPC, and they are have annually they apply for these grants, and they have been very successful in achieving them and getting awarded them. And then they work with the municipalities to update these plans. However, the grant application deadline was in August for this year, 2022. So if you postpone updating these plans in order to apply for the grants and to have it funded through grants, then you would apply in August of 22, and then the plan would be worked on in 2023. So it would postpone the updates of it. But again, I don't see that as a major concern. For one thing, the the comprehensive plan that is intended to guide development. Most of your development is occurring in the tax increment districts, which have plans. So it's not just happening unplanned. And then as far as the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, when I looked at your capital improvement plan, it didn't appear that you had any type of parks and recreation activities that would qualify for a DNR grant in the next year to 2 years. So by not having an updated comprehensive outdoor rec plan, I don't see that you would be missing out on potential grant funding. So to save oh, yes.
Go ahead, Denise.
Denise?
No, I was just going to wait till Diane was done and then Rob call on me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Denise.
So there's 3 alternatives. You can either, just go ahead, move forward with it. You've got some money budgeted. And so then you can just move forward with it. The second one is to postpone the update and apply for the grant period for the coastal management grant with the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission and have them work on it. And then the third option is kind of a little bit of both. Is the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission also does a technical assistance grant annually that's due January 31st. And what the village could do is apply to that to just kind of kick off the process and have Bay Lake, because it's up to 40 hours of technical assistance. So you could have Bay Lake work with you to start doing some of the public informational meetings and things like that in order to get public input in 2022, and then apply for the grant and then do the update in 2023.
See, my vote.
Maybe I can change your mind, Pat.
Okay.
So my concern is, I'm not as concerned with postponing the 20-year comprehensive plan. We do not have an administrator. Yes, I realize that we would hire an organization to help the Plan Commission with this document, but I also think that it would be important to have an administrator throughout that process. So I'm okay with postponing that. where I guess I need a little clarification or see how the rest of the board feels is with the outdoor rec plan. That plan is only 27 pages long. It is not a complex document. Yes, there are some tabulations in there, or whatever that would need to be updated. But with the 56 acres of the Wilsey property, and with the land acquisition committee moving along, I'm just wondering if we move forward with updating that, so that we would be prepared if something came out of land acquisition, that we would be able to apply for grants for pertaining to anything that we may be thinking of doing out there. So that's, I guess, my question to the board and to Diane.
Denise, I agree, but Diane, real quick, and on top of what Denise asked, what type of things, like, give us an example of some of the things the DNR would be giving grants for in that, because that can help us determine how urgently we should be changing our outdoor plan. Because if it's just water stuff, or if it's, you know, like, what is the DNR, give us some examples of what they're giving money to for that.
You know, and I wish I would have written some of them down. I'm trying to look it up now because I know that they were very specific on, there's just certain funding programs that require that comprehensive outdoor rec plan. I'll keep looking on this and see if I can find it, but I don't know offhand. I should have written them down, but I did not.
That's okay. I would agree with Denise. I think we should possibly do that, even if we do it now and then do it again, right? Because I think a comprehensive outdoor recreational plan for the village, even though it's 27 pages now and it seems really small, but it was probably looking at parks, and we want to connect the village more and things of that nature. So it might end up being a little bigger project, Denise. But if we just did it a little bit to at least get something now, I agree we shouldn't wait.
Well,
Can I
and if
just-
we-
Sorry.
Hold on. Pat had his hand up, and then Heidi after that.
I was just going to say, if we can get potentially the Bay Lake to help us with this 40-hour thing that we could get a grant for this year, why not, even if it's just on the front end of this parks thing, try to get the grant money and try to get some expertise and help. I agree. And my first thought is, yeah, it's nice to have an administrator in there. But if I look at the 10, 12 years I've been around, there's 3 different ones. So you're going to put a 5, 10, 20-year plan out. The chances of the next administrator being here to see that through, I don't know. You know, so just my 2 cents.
Heidi?
I was just going to share while Diane's doing some research that with the tax bills this year, I sent out about 700 surveys to different individuals regarding their ideas for use of that Wiltsey property. I've gotten about 100 of them back so far, and the overwhelming response has been they want recreational trails out there. I would think that recreational trails might be somewhat DNR related because they could put in walking paths and trees. So I will have all of those results for the next land acquisition meeting, whenever it is, and you want to see how people voted, but not too many people voted for our administration building, unfortunately.
You know, I think I like Denise's idea and perhaps just make some tweaks to the existing plan, and then be sure to add in that property that you were referring to. And when I say tweaks, I mean like updated data, population and so forth. And then I forgot who it was that had mentioned is that then once still apply for the grant to do a more substantial update, but make sure that it's at least updated enough to include that other land that the village recently purchased.
Nate and then Chad.
Every time this comes up, I say it. I know we've got to call it a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, but the reality is it's also a transportation plan. That is a real legitimate transportation. I understand that's what we got to call it, but every time it comes up, I'm going to keep mentioning that too. It is legitimate, real transportation that impacts the village.
Chad?
I disagree with that. We got, let's make the changes. Let's go for this. Exactly what Pat said, like, why wait? as much as I would want an administrator there, and I do agree with Denise, like maybe we push off a little bit on the comprehensive plan, but to Pat's point, whoever's coming in probably isn't going to have the feel that we do anyway. I'm not looking to burden anybody at this point, but it doesn't mean we can't start working on it a little bit, because who knows when that's going to be and who knows how long they're going to last.
So Diane, would you be able in your time per week with us to move quickly on that grant application by January 31st?
Yes, that is a very simple grant application. I would have no problem getting that in by then. You're talking about the one for the technical assistance
Yes.
from Bay Lake
Yes.
RPC.
Yes.
And is that for the comprehensive plan? So I want to make sure that I'm getting this correctly. Is that the comprehensive plan? The Corp you just want to move forward with and do?
Couldn't
the
the grant be
comprehensive-
for both?
Oh,
Right.
okay, I see.
See how it goes. We want to do both of them, and maybe they do some work on both. Maybe there's some
Sure.
initial,
Yeah.
Public opinion, survey writing.
Yep.
Who knows what needs to get done, technically that they could maybe do, that you're gathering information or putting the ball in motion. And then it's 2023 when you get the other grant funds that it really gets executed on the changes and whatever.
All right. I can get that grant application into Bay Lake.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anything else from anyone on item 6?
You want to have a
Yes.
motion?
I,
You need a motion for that?
Hold on, Janelle. Denise, let's hear Denise's point and then we'll go to you.
So I think we had a special ad hoc committee that worked on that outdoor rec plan. Am I remembering that correctly? But my question is how do we move forward in updating it? Is it a separate ad hoc committee? Is it a Parks, Property and Streets? Is it Plan Commission? Who deals with this?
My first thought on that, Denise, is when we find out status on grant attainment from Diane and the specifics then we know the specifics of what it pertains to and how much money is there, we can consider how either in the plan for 8 hours per week or possible additional time, Diane would take the initial lead on that.
Okay, but there still has to be a committee dealing with it.
And then it would, ultimately come, to a committee for, review and or approval of what she has come up with. Chad?
I just think something like that, Diane's a great resource. She should be great and helpful, but I think it's the people that live here that really got to add to that vision, that live here every day, work here, been here, like maybe some of them that were on that committee in the past, if they were there to, but so much success has happened in this village, having some of these ad hoc committees, free think and do things. And then, then it goes from there.
Well, what if it was absorbed into part of your ad hoc land acquisition
Sure.
committee?
I mean, I got
have
you
data that so much of it, much of the survey responses relate to the Wiltsey property.
Yeah, that would be fine, because really at the end of the day, I think the goal here is to at least do something now. We can spend a lot more time on it later, but it'll allow us to possibly get grant money for out there. That'd be fine.
I think it should be a separate one from that. I mean, you've got a lot of interests out there that may not.
Yeah, I prefer it to be separate. I prefer it to be separate, but if it can't, with people's commitments, times, we'll figure it out.
Okay, so should we then consider, whoops, sorry, Denise, go ahead.
Then if Janelle was looking, for a motion, I would incorporate into that motion that by next month's meeting that the village establish the outdoor transportation recreation comprehensive plan ad hoc committee with people, possibly to reach out to those who participated last time, if they're willing, find new people that may be interested in being part of that and get that set up, possibly next month.
I think we might be better on track to next month get an update from Diane where things stand on the application as it's filed and, or, for the grant money, and then give everyone some time to work down to the committee level to see who we might want to reach out to more than, saying by 30 days from now, we need to know who's going to be on this committee.
Well, the only thing that I have to say about that is right now is when people will have time.
Okay,
And if we push it off too far and we talk about it, then we, set it up in March, and then we don't make committee appointments until April, and now it's May.
so what size
Diane's
committee
got
are
her
you?
hand raised.
What?
Diane has her hand raised, using the
Yes,
hand raising
Diane.
feature that's so fantastic.
I found it. I just wanted to give you a heads up that it's likely it'll take a while before we know if the village is awarded the grant from the technical assistance grant from Bay Lake, because they only award 3 per year for all of the communities that are a part of the organization. A lot of them don't bother applying, so I think there's a good chance, but it does take a while for them to process it and figure out, what the awards are. So we may not know by next month or the month after.
So you're saying that we should hold off on getting a group of people together, not knowing if there's grant money? I mean, I think we should still move forward even if we don't get the grant money, at least on the outdoor aspect of it.
I guess I'm not really making a recommendation on when to establish that committee or task force. I just wanted to make sure, just wanted to let you guys be aware that we may not know by then. I mean, you're certainly more alert to the priority of working on it with or without the grant.
I've got a quick question for Diane. In your experience as an administrator, is there a typical process for this type of plan? In other words, is it an ad hoc? Is it Parks, Property, Streets? Is it plan? Is it the village board? Is it something else? Is there a typical scenario for this type of process?
In the past, it's been where I've been. It was a parks related committee.
Okay.
I've not seen it as a separate committee, but that was just, the company or organizations that I've come from, they had a harder time getting interested citizens. It seems like Sister Bay, I get the impression you have a lot more interest by your citizens.
We got old people with a lot of time.
Yeah, we couldn't, I mean, in the past, the organizations I worked for, it was like there are constant vacancies, could not get people involved until there was a complaint.
Yep. Okay. I'm just curious.
I think that we should form that committee, next month, set to do that so we can get this going. Like to Denise's point, if we don't do that next month, maybe we can get it in April or May. If not, we're looking at May, June. And that's a huge difference for availability, especially for any citizen members.
So do we have consensus among the trustees that it does not make sense to utilize the ad hoc land acquisition committee in charge of ideas for the Wiltsey property in this endeavor?
Yes, I would like to see it separate.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good with seeing it separate.
And
Okay.
do you feel like this is not appropriate for parks? Just maybe playing devil's advocate or just advocating Diane's point of, the parks department or parks committee is who knows our parks, property and streets the best. Does it make
They should have
sense?
representation there, but I can just feel Chad thinking about all the time they're spending on flower pots and how that
Oh,
would
my God.
detract from that.
Pat, have you read Parks Minutes in the last like 3 years?
Okay,
I hear you, Pat. I mean, I would be fine, but I like the idea. One of these ad hoc subcommittees brings in people that might eventually serve on our boards and committees. I was brought into the waterfront one. I really enjoyed it. And I think it brings in people with different perspective. A lot of times we all get entrenched in I don't know, like the crap of local government, and it brings in people with good, fresh ideas. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think these ad hoc committees have had success. You know,
So would it be safe, would everyone agree that a name for this committee would be the Ad Hoc Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan Committee?
it's a lot.
Recreation and transportation. I heard that in Denise and I loved her name of that.
Ad Hoc Recreation and Transportation Committee?
Yes.
Like it.
Okay, Ad Hoc Recreation and Transportation Committee, and then do we want to start running an ad in the Pulse asking citizens to contact the village office like we've done when there's been other committee openings?
Well, we certainly can do that. I guess I'd volunteer to chair that.
I would volunteer to get some of these leakers leaving the board to join that one, since they're gonna have all this free time. You know who I'm looking at, Pat and Vivian.
I got it.
Vivian will do that.
Okay, well, I mean, if you're gonna try. and
Okay,
stay with
so
that, I don't know if I wanna-
do we have based on Nate's volunteerism, I will motion that we vote to designate and approve Nate Bell as the new chairman of the new Ad Hoc Recreation and Transportation Committee.
And then a goal of how many members? I'm thinking 5 or 7, 5 probably. What do you
Say 7.
think?
7.
You feel that has to be part of the motion, Nate?
I guess it'd be good for to know.
Yeah.
You don't need to put that in the motion, but just to know.
I was considering you a chairman and waiting that we would trust to come up with the right
Okay,
number.
All
but-
right, Rob, thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence. I'll be quiet then.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Zashki, second by Kanako. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And Nate, we entrust to you what you feel is appropriate and look forward to hearing from you as soon as you deem fit here
Okay.
next month.
I'm going to, I was already planning on sitting down with Dan Klansky to hear some stuff about the roads and that sort of stuff. So I think that'll be a good starting point.
I'm busy
Okay,
that day.
and then to Janelle, let's begin next month on the committee reports listing ad hoc recreation and transportation.
Okay,
And you can put that one right in. I don't believe the MOU committee that was a subsect of tourism zone will be meeting anymore. If need be, we can use that space for ad hoc
Okay.
recreation and transportation, or simply add it.
okay. So now have I got it right that Rob, you're gonna recommend committee members, or you want Nate to let you know?
We
Potential
have,
members.
we have approved Nate to be the new chair, and we're entrusting him to take the next steps with the committee and report back to us.
Okay,
And Denise,
so, and recommend potential committee members at the next meeting?
we're entrusting Nate as the new chairman of the committee by next meeting during committee reports to update us on everything he sees fit, including and in advance, if he has some candidates that he would like to put forth at that meeting for a recommendation to be appointed, we can certainly in advance, I
Okay,
can get that from Nate.
I see Denise has got her hand up.
I see that too. Denise?
Okay, I think it can't just be the transportation and recreation plan. It has that you have to have the comprehensive plan. You have to have comprehensive in the title of that committee. That is what it is.
Ad hoc comprehensive recreation and transportation plan.
Well,
Yes.
Diane, does it have to, that has to be the plan we're working on, but does it have to be in the committee name?
I'm sorry, did you ask me that?
Yeah,
No, that it does have that, that has to be the name of the plan, the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. I don't think it matters. Is actually even the title, it's just making sure that it covers certain items to have it qualify as a comprehensive outdoor rec plan. As far as the ad hoc committee, I think that is entirely up to the Village of Sister Bay.
So if we wanted to call it the Ad hoc Recreation and Transportation Committee, as we initially said, that would be acceptable. Okay,
I don't see why not.
I got a quick idea here,
Yeah.
guys. Why don't we just call it the Ad hoc Comprehensive Plan Committee, and they're gonna pump out the outdoor recreational plan right now, and then they'll just pump out the other one. Let's have it be one committee. This is what they're gonna work on first. Let's make it a really great committee, and then the committee for the comprehensive plan is already in place.
do you, Chad, do you
Dave,
think it would
you
be
got that?
do you think it would be as easy to get citizens to participate in something that's a comprehensive plan committee as a committee on recreation and transportation?
I don't know, but
I think this is a classic bait and switch. That's exactly what we should do. I liked your idea, Chad. Let's
Yeah,
listen
I
to these
just think
people,
we
get them
need
on a
this.
committee and then keep them there.
keep
Lock
them
them in the
there.
room.
If it's working, keep them there. Put a big enough number in there. People aren't always going to make all the meetings, but the best thing about ad hoc committees is nothing you do matters. I mean, right? I mean, it all matters, but nothing is official.
Oh, no, you had it right.
I like that. I knew you would. But I think we need to do this anyway. Let's put a great committee together. The first thing you're going to work on is the outdoor recreational and transportation plan, or whatever you want to call it. And then you can always, as you're working on this, you can factor in some of the things that are going to fit into the comprehensive plan, right? Because it's, as I've learned with ad hoc land, you can't talk about that land without trying to figure out how to connect it to downtown, right? There's things that aren't part of that property that matter for the plan. So do it. Yeah.
I
Comprehensive.
hear what
plan.
you're saying, Chad, but I think that we try and do that. And if it works out well, yeah, we try and run with it. I mean, we could just change it to the unicorn committee,
Sure.
the ad hoc unicorn committee, and then
I'm
we just
in.
keep.
You might
running
get a
it.
lot of volunteers for that.
So if we're successful enough with the recreation and transportation part of this, then the committee chair could branch it out and see who on that committee down the road is interested to stick around as it moves in another direction. Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
If you
So do
like
we-
what comes out of it, you may hate what comes out of this too.
so do
Especially
we
Chad.
need to go back in and undo motions and change what we said the committee would be named, or? are we
No,
okay?
you're close enough. That's fine.
Well, I
Okay.
think Diane said it doesn't matter.
If
The-
you
the-
call it the unicorn committee, I'll move to Sister Bay and join
Okay.
it.
Perfect.
All right,
Okay,
so
so now that motion is that Val shall be appointed to serve as the chair of the Ad hoc Recreation and Transportation Committee and shall provide updates and recommend potential committee appointments at the next regular meeting of the village board. Is that right?
he'll recommend any committee appointments in advance of the next meeting so that they can be slated for approval, and any other updates that he has during
Okay.
the committee reports.
That's hilarious, Nate.
You always have to have a unicorn around. I'm ready.
Welcome Diane, but good luck finding affordable housing.
You got that, Janelle?
Okay, so now you gotta take a vote on that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried.
Okay, so now, do you want to make motions regarding the updating of the comprehensive plan and the other outdoor recreation plan? Is
I think
that necessary, Diane?
If you would just make just basically like a motion directing me to apply to the Bay Lake RPC Technical Assistance Grant and requesting that they apply to the Coastal Management Grant, something like that, because then that would give me the authorization of the village board to apply to those grants on your behalf.
Okay, so is this okay then? This is what I have. That the village board directs Wessel to proceed with updating of the Village of Sister Bay 20-year concept comprehensive plan, as well as the outdoor recreation plan in 2022. And to that end, the village shall apply for a technical assistance grant from the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission and submit an application for 2023 funding for a Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant. Is that
That sounds
okay?
good.
Okay,
Other than the update, I think you said the update would be in 2022.
uh-huh.
Could you take that out? Because unless I misunderstood,
Okay.
the comprehensive plan, the bigger one plan, is probably not gonna, may not start in 22.
Yes.
So
Okay.
maybe just take out the year.
Okay, and then just say with most planning activities to be conducted in 2023.
That works.
Okay. So who wants to make that motion and second it?
I will make the motion
Second.
and we've got the
Mark, you
second,
seconded it.
all, second by Baker. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, discussion regarding electronic meetings of the Village of Sister Bay. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Diane, you've got some information for us on this as well.
Yep, this is one I just came across by accident when I was looking at when I started looking into the hourly stuff. It's just that the ordinance of Sister Bay states physical locations where the meetings are to be held, and the bylaws identify, depending on the size of the committee, how many people can be remote. And with the pandemic, the actual meetings have been held completely remote, which is completely legal and within statutes and open meetings law. It's just not consistent with the bylaws and the ordinances. So like I said, I came across this by accident. So I would recommend just an ordinance that strikes the reference to section 3.6 from the ordinances, where it states physical locations of the meetings, and then strike section 4 of the Village of Sister Bay Committee and Commission bylaws, where it talks about how many members can join remotely. So I wouldn't even put in new language, just strike that language that limits remote meetings. And if that's what you want to do, then I'll draft the ordinances for the next meeting, the language that would do this.
Do we have consensus to have Diane move forward with that for next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
excellent. Thank you, Diane,
You
very
bet.
much. Item number 8, review of the financial statements and consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills. Does anybody have any questions for Tasha?
I just have one question, Tassa. On the first page, there were 3 entries, small amounts for OnStar.
Yep. So we have OnStar in the utility vehicles, and we will add OnStar in each utility vehicle as they get it so that they can run their GIS and that kind of thing.
Okay, that's tied into that.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize that, so, okay.
So that's providing data to them.
Pat?
Right. I was page 6 at the top. It says Sister Bay sewer and water pump out charges. I was just curious what that is.
That is the marina pays $1.05 per pump out to the utility for taking care of the waste.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Tasha, page 1 of your report, which is page 110 in the packet. iPad for ice rink sales, $347 and change.
Mhm.
What were we historically doing for ice rink sales before the need for an iPad?
We had an extremely old cash register that didn't work well, that didn't print well, and that was really cumbersome to reconcile. So, and we never took credit cards. So now we're using Square Up. So we're able to take a credit or debit card out there or cash. All the transactions are on point of sale through Square Up, since it's such a simple process out there, and it's really working very well.
Excellent. Any other questions for Tasha? I motion that we approve the monthly bills.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Committee reports. Administrative Committee, nothing to report. Communication Technology Committee.
Okay, so there has not been a meeting, but this would be a time to talk about this, and also I'll jump between this and DCEDC. This broadband fiber plan, which is really, they're calling it the fiber network for Door County. There was a meeting 2 weeks ago that I was in attendance virtually, talking about this plan the consultants had come up with for providing fiber to all of Door County. There was a little bit of a question between who was going to run lead on it, whether it was going to be DCEDC or the county. I think that there's still there was a little bit of friction between those two entities. I think they got it nailed down to say that the county was going to try and do a coordinator position and have that instead of DCEDC do it. That's what I was in favor of as well. The fiber plan it's not as finite and written in stone as you'd think. It is a suggestion, and it's gone under the supposition that all the municipalities will participate in it, which I don't think is likely. I think that there's a real question of how much it's going to benefit the village, because most of the village has access to charter internet. And while symmetric fiber internet connectivity is great, it's the holy grail of internet connectivity, I don't know that, even being a technology enthusiast that I am, I can pass the red face test telling every trustee here that it's a good idea for the village to spend somewhere between $3 and $5 million on it. I'm just not sure about that. I do think that one thing that was asked from that meeting was to set up a committee to get public input from the towns and villages, and I think that would be appropriate. And I think that Comtech would be the appropriate place to seek public input to see what the village residents think, because simply because I think it doesn't mean there's not another viewpoint out there. So I would actually like to schedule a meeting to try and seek some public input on that, to see what anybody else is thinking as far as this plan goes, and to provide some feedback to the county after that meeting would happen. How does that sound to everybody?
Excellent.
yeah, sounds good.
Okay, and then I'll come back, and there's some other DCD stuff I'll come back to after Coastal Byways.
Okay. Thank you. Coastal Byways, Vivian.
Coastal Byways met yesterday. Everything is going well. We did authorize the creation of the new, or the update of the website. So it will be mobile friendly. They do have the funds to do that. Thank you. The village kicked in an extra $1,000 toward that. Everything seems to be going well.
Thank you.
Questions?
Nate?
DCEDC, I wonder if some of this would come under closed session, because there is some indirect employee thing coming out there that may be inappropriate to talk about publicly, but I am done with my term on DCEDC. I got a lovely plaque behind me that says thank you for service there. I was not in attendance the last meeting. The last meeting was pretty much about the broadband plan. Rob, have you heard from DCEDC as far as a replacement from the village for me on the DCEDC board?
I had not heard from them that you were no longer part of it either.
Yeah, no, so that was news to me when they said, oh, we're sending you this plaque. I said, huh? I knew that I had 6 years, but I thought that would be up next May, which is what we had talked to them about. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I think there's a little bit of lack of communication there. I think there's some other things going on there that do not inspire me with confidence. And I guess I'm not shocked that Steve is going to be leaving on the 3rd of June next year. But I guess there's, like I say, if some of these other thoughts might be more appropriate to share in closed session.
That's fine. Thank you. Item number 5, Emergency Management Plan Committee,
Has not met.
Finance.
believe we met. That's Denise's committee though, so.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. They're always joint meetings, so I just always let you be in charge, Pat.
Very nice of you.
Fire Board meets on the 26th, I believe, still. Correct? Or has that been canceled?
I thought it was changed to the 7th of February. They're waiting on
Okay.
more information.
Okay, so we've got that. Ad hoc Friends of Pebble Beach, Chad?
We had a good meeting, working on copy and storytelling and all the stuff we can put on a website and create awareness for us to really make a push this spring to get sponsors and raise some money for that.
Excellent. Green Tier Legacy Community, what's in the minutes in the packet is sufficient for now. Unless anyone has any questions.
If I could just make a comment.
Sure, Diane.
I was scanning through some of the meeting minutes, and just to make you aware, there's 2 items in the Green Tier Legacy Committee that had some discussion that there are some grant funds available for. One being the tree management plan, and another one, the infrastructure bill has some grants that are going to be coming through for installation of electric vehicle charging stations.
Can you send me an email on that offline and then we can pursue it? I can take it
Absolutely.
further since I chair
Yep.
that committee. Thank you.
Will do.
Historical Society?
We met on the 13th. It was basically a meeting hashing over what we did for the Christmas market. Changes for future. Name some dates for some of the major events that they handle. Other than that, that was pretty much it.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Ad hoc Land Acquisition Committee?
I haven't gotten meeting dates to Heidi, but I'm gonna do that right now. Heidi, how does February 7th at 1 PM, March 14th at 1 PM, and April 11th at 1 PM work?
February 7th, March 14th, and what was the April date?
The 11th, and if a parks starts at 2:30, they would be over well before that.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any conflicts. You've avoided all of the major election dates, so we should be okay.
All right, cool. If something changes, just let me know.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, guys, while we're talking about land ad hoc. So I can't remember the name of the consulting group out of De Pere that we decided to hire or pay a subscription to. But I would like to sit with them or have them come to our meeting, maybe not the next one, but maybe the March or the April one, because I think having something like that or having an entity like that give us the 20,000 view of a property that we can come up with. I've been deciding, or I thought early on we would just turn this over to consultants and let them plan out where everything would go, and I don't know if that's the right move. I think this committee should kind of get a ballpark on where things go, let a company like this put that together, and then obviously it's got to go to the next level. Are you guys good with me meeting with them to try to get that accomplished for this committee?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, good. I'll reach out to them. Thank you.
Okay,
And
thank you.
what time do you want to meet on the 7th, the 14th, and the 11th?
1 PM we've been doing them so Dick Burris can do it, but in between bus
Okay.
shifts.
So does that mean you're gonna make it clear it's a hard stop by 2:30 with everyone for those, Chad?
Oh, easily. Yeah, I don't, after an hour, we all go brain dead anyway. I don't know why we sit here longer than that.
Okay,
Are you
Thank you.
meeting virtually?
Yeah, let's keep it
Okay.
virtual for now. Thank you.
So we've got February and March then that would be virtual, and then we'll figure out, when we get into March, how we shape where we're headed with the meetings, Janelle. So
Okay,
like we said, we would be doing it the way we have been through March and then revisit it then. Library Commission. Vivian,
You do have the December minutes and the librarian's report, I believe. We did also meet, our January meeting was last week. We did, and I told you this last month, we did hire a treasurer at a higher salary than we had budgeted for with the previous, with Ralph. And because of that's the amount we had been budgeted for when the village and town budgets were passed. We actually have funding from the sales of the donated books that the Library Commission will make up that difference for this year, so that the next year it can be budgeted. The commission also funded one furnace and one air conditioning unit this last year from donation funds. And there are funds now for the rest of the furnaces and air conditioners. If they need to be replaced in this year, that's in the contingency fund from the village and the town. So that's covered. The new treasurer is doing well, and we're about to start looking for a building operations manager. But in the meantime, Ralph is covering that. He's agreed to stay on for that until we find that. So
and he's fit and healthy after his surgery, Vivian?
he was great.
Excellent.
A hip replacement, yes.
Yep.
And that went very
Excellent.
well.
Excellent. Thank you. Marina Committee.
Minutes in the packet. Any questions?
Marina Fest Committee.
Has not met.
Parks, Properties and Streets, in addition to packet, I would say, let everyone know that options for Woodcrest Road and the further research that Dan Klansky is doing on cost for options will be an agenda item at the next Parks meeting. Personnel Committee. Yeah,
I don't think there's anything.
anything to know? No.
No.
Okay. Plan Commission, Denise, anything?
No, anybody have any questions about what we're doing?
What are you doing?
You need to pay closer attention, Chad.
Anything cool?
SBAA, couple things to note, numeric of interest. October 22 room tax for Sister Bay up 48% versus 2019 October.
What was that percentage?
Wow.
Up 48%.
Wow.
I should say October 21, excuse me. October 21 room tax
Yeah.
up 48% versus 2019. SBAA at the last meeting last week, the draft of the SBA budget was presented. The team agreed that there's some tweaks to be made, more or less a cleanup of refining it a little better. So I would expect the village board to see that in cleaned up form at the February board meeting. Tourism zone met in December in part to approve the DDC budget. The DDC budget was not approved by the tourism zone, essentially due to too many vagaries that also included a DDC idea for a significantly funded but unspecified reserve fund, rather than any specifics on how municipalities might start receiving additional funds. The Tourism Zone Executive Committee at some point this month is meeting with the new DDC CEO and their executive team with the expectation that a refined budget with more specifics will be presented for approval to the full Tourism Zone Board at the February Tourism Zone meeting. Several Tourism Zone members gave Josh Van Lieshout, our chair, and Julie Gilbert, the DDC CEO, specifics on what they felt was pertinent to be addressed and that there was consensus on. In that regard, I asked of Julie if the refined budget presented for approval would include specifics on additional funding dollar amounts to municipalities. Julie was adamant that their budget will not spell out specifics as far as the amount of additional funding that municipalities will be receiving. Josh Van Lieshout did not offer any objection to that, and essentially supported her position that it would not. I mentioned that just so we're all on the same page knowledge-wise. As I believe trustees will recall, at the prior board meeting, when it was determined by trustee majority vote that we should not send a letter to the DDC asking specifics related to how much additional funds Sister Bay would receive. One of the supporting pieces of information in that discussion was Denise noting that she had received a message from Miles Danhausen Jr. prior to the meeting saying there was no worries that the DDC budget included the additional funding. And just so everyone knows, I've subsequently talked with Denise and Miles about this. Everyone's now on the same page that there are no specifics related to what Sister Bay or anyone else will be getting. And it we'll just have to monitor that as things proceed. In that regard, so all trustees are aware, there was a request that came through from Louise, who is volunteered to kind of spearhead coordinator meetings with Julie, for Julie to make a presentation to the Sister Bay board on their strategic marketing plan. I explained to Louise and Julie, we look forward to that presentation happening once they have an approved budget, so that the two necessary things tie together and we'll be able to get an update with some certitude as far as how their strategic marketing plan actually has budgeted allotments for it. So that is the update on Tourism Zone. MOU committee has not met. I think that committee will have served its time. And I'll find out more about that this coming month. Utilities has not met, planning to meet next month. Youth Center has not met. So that's it for our committee reports.
So quick question there, Rob.
Yes.
I'm curious on this DDC budget. It talks about in here and the justification for marketing staff increase 40% and administrative staff 210%. So these are things that the county's asking for more clarification on.
The tourism zone. That's
Tourism zone.
That's
Okay.
part of what they said is okay, why?
Yep.
What's it for?
Okay, good.
Yes, that's an example. Essentially, there's a litany of things in that various tourism zone members said, hold on here. And it was agreed there's a lot to hash out before it gets sent back to the full tourism board.
Good, because one could take it that this large increase in revenue from the increased tax that supposedly is not going to go to more marketing, it's going to go to sustainability and other things. And then if you turn around and you raise your marketing staff 40%, what are they supposed to do? Create marketing to drive more people, which you're saying you're not going to do. So
no, it's yes, it was a substantive meeting of many tourism zone members with significant deep dive on target questions
Okay,
that
great.
led to it not being approved.
Rob, I guess one thing that I have always had an issue with, since I've been on the board with Jack Moneypenny, is his inaccessibility to the village board. I guess I'm kind of surprised and disappointed that we didn't take the opportunity to talk to the CEO, whether that to be for her proposal for a perspective plan or whatever. I think that establishing that communication would have been a good thing, and I really hope that we would take her up on any sort of her willingness to come to a meeting, because that was a big sticking point with me with Jack Moneypenny and his inability, or just not, he didn't have the desire or the time, or thought it was important enough to come to and attend a meeting. So I guess I'm disappointed in that.
Well, I'm not, maybe I didn't clarify things well enough for you to cause you disappointment. There's already an understanding in place between Louise, Julie, and myself that as soon as the budget is approved for DDC, they will be on the next Village of Sister Bay board meeting for a presentation. Most likely that will be in March, but it's already been understood that that could get bumped up to February if we get the DDC budget approved at the tourism zone meeting in February, and it works for Julie's schedule. We'll have her come and speak with us next month. If it has to be March, whatever works for her. But, it's not an opportunity that we've, turned down. It's wanting to have Julie come when all of the information is there to present to us.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm still disappointed.
All right,
On that note, I know a board member of the Visitor Bureau who has gotten her, she was up here last week, Thursday. I couldn't do it. My daughter had a basketball game. And he's getting up here, I think, next week sometime to just meet with, meet and greet a couple people, local business owners, community stakeholders, people that want to talk about their concerns or their whatever, their views. And it's just good to hear that she's coming north. She's meeting with people, to Nate's point, way more than Jack ever did. So I think there's a lot to be encouraged about with the change there. I mean, we'll obviously see where it goes, but it seems
right.
promising.
And she's been here once already for a meet and greet that was held at Skipstone. We all received notification of that. And so, yes, she has been making her presence available to people already. Okay. Janelle, do you want a motion to accept committee reports?
Yes, please.
I will motion that we accept the committee reports as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Item number 9, consider a motion to convene into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C to consider employment promotions, compensations, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Wisconsin statutes 19.851E to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conduct other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and Wisconsin statutes 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Motion that we go at 8:09 p.m. I will motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
Roll call.
Baker,
Zaki,
yes.
yes.
Eno, yes.
Hell, yes.
Birdo, yes.
Duffy, yes.
Bronco, yes.
And Baker.
You started it out, yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, at 8:10 p.m. then we are in closed session.